Madam Chairman, could I ask you a question, please?
Yes, of course.
I ain't got enough sugar in my tea. I've got to go get another spoonful of sugar. Bear with me.
Okay, we are now live and ready to do a roll call again.
Thank you. Off you go, Sarah. Wendy, Sarah, whichever.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Yes.
Councillor Chamberlain.
Present.
Councillor Coleman.
Present.
Councillor Davey.
Present.
Councillor De Saram.
Present.
Councillor Gazzard.
Present.
Councillor Key.
Present.
Councillor Pook.
Present.
Councillor Pratt.
Present.
Councillor Skinner. Councillor Skinner. He's getting sugar.
He's gone to get his cup of sugar.
Thank you. Councillor Whibley.
Present.
Councillor Woodward.
Present.
And Councillor Ragg.
Present.
Thank you, Chair. The meeting is quorate.
Present, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Should we have declarations of interest, please?
Okay, I'll go through the roll call again. So, Councillor Brown.
None.
Councillor Chamberlain.
Only that I'm a ward member for Farringdon.
Councillor Coleman.
None.
Councillor Davey.
None.
Councillor De Saram.
None.
Councillor Gazzard.
None.
Councillor Key.
None.
Councillor Pook.
None.
Councillor Pratt.
None.
Councillor Skinner.
None.
Councillor Whibley.
None.
Councillor Woodward.
None.
Councillor Ragg.
None.
Thank you.
Screen's gone blank. Right, agenda item 9, application number 192724, full land east of Hillbarton Business Park, Farringdon. There are no speakers, so over to you, Mr. Rose, to present the application.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, so this is use of a site as a storage yard for the sale and storage of building material. It's a retrospective application and it's before you as it's a departure from the local plan. So this is the site here at the moment that will make more sense with the aerial. So it's this site in here, follows that boundary. So we have Hillbarton Business Park here, extends out around to here. And it's a proposal for warehouse and offices. So we've got storage outside, storage building on the site, small office building on the site. Sort of porter cabin office building in design, meeting rooms inside the office, and here's the storage building. So these are the views from the east looking back. You don't really see the building because of the levels and the raised land. So the site was formerly a landfill tip, so there's been restoration works done. But these are the close range views. So this is the site in here. This is the storage building. That's the building there, and then you can just behind the palisade fence make out the offices there. So it's this site in here, and you can see from this photo that there's planting that's been done outside of the site. So if I just go back, so all this site here was previously a waste site, so it's been remediated, and that the planting you saw is a bund that you might be able to make out in this photo that runs around the site that screens views back towards Hillbarton. So the site is outside of the consented area for Hill Barton business plan, and it's not. And the villages plan, the East Devon Villages plan, doesn't include it with the boundary of the business park either. And policy E7 of the local plan specifically states that we shouldn't have any extension of Hill Barton Business Park. So that's why the application's a departure. But in this case, and this is an extract of the plan from the Devon County Waste Local Plan, and you'll see that that includes this site as part of an allocation or designation for waste uses going forward. So whilst the local plan doesn't designate the site for development, the Devon County Waste Plan does as part of this wider allocation for waste uses on the site. And you'll see in the report that Devon County Council as the Waste Authority have clarified that this development on this site doesn't prejudice the waste development coming forward on the remainder of the site that they've allocated it for. So that's a big material consideration, that the site would otherwise be developed under the waste local plan, even though it's not designated in the local plan. And in addition to that, we as a local planning authority back in 2018 granted consent on the site for 10 containerized units for the storage of electricity. So as a local authority, we've also granted previous consent on the site. So given that waste allocation, given the previous consent, that's why the principle of development is considered to be acceptable in this case, despite it not having that local plan support. With regard to the visual impact, it's very localized. Obviously, it looks like an in part of the industrial estate when you're up close. You don't really get views from the development when you're on this road because of this bund and the planting. You do get, the photos have been taken on the access road. You do get some more glimpsed views from further afield, but you view the building against the backdrop of Hill Barton. And you'll also note that there's a condition on the application to provide more planting. So there is space to the front here to provide more planting and down the side. And there's a condition to ensure that that takes place. But subject to that, there's not considered to be any significant harm. It's quite a distance from the closest residents. And again, you'll note on the report that there's an hours condition on there to control any impact on the nearest residents. And there's no highway safety concerns. So despite it being a departure, because of the allocation of the site in the waste local plan, the previous consent on the site, lack of visual harm, and subject to this increased planting, the proposal is considered to be acceptable and therefore recommended for approval subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Now, are there any ward members who'd like to speak? I see the ward members, Councillor Pepper, is he present? Seems no.
No.
No. Councillor Rylance, not there?
No.
No. Okay, Councillor Chamberlain. Would you like to speak as a ward member?
She may be on mute. Yes, Councillor Chamberlain, you're on mute at the moment.
Hello, sorry, my internet dropped out. Sorry. Hello.
Hello, Sarah.
Hi.
Hello, sorry, my internet dropped out, so I've just lost the last couple of minutes.
Would you like to speak as ward member?
No, I don't think I have anything to say. The only thing that I will say quickly is retrospective sort of applications annoy me a little bit. But it's there, it's in keeping with the existing area there for industrial use. They've got the tree planting going on. I'd like to see a bit more in the front there, but like Chris Rose has said, that could come forward in the future. And it's not near a resident dwelling, so I don't think I can add any more than that at the moment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think perhaps I should add that I'm familiar with this site, having made site visits to this particular part of it when I was on Devon County Council's DMC several years ago, but that's not declaring an interest. All right, blue hands up. Councillor Key.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, I appreciate this is a departure from the development plan, but it is a useful business that's going to employ people. That road that we can actually see, I don't think that is a public, that is the estate road, I think, not a public road. So you wouldn't really see it that much from the public road there. But yes, I can't see any problem with it at all. It's going to employ people, going to make good use of a piece of land that was designated. And so I'm more than happy to put forward the recommendation of approval.
Thank you. Is there a seconder, please?
Yeah, I'll second it, Madam Chairman.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Skinner. Your turn to speak.
Thank you very much. This, Mr. Rose, could I ask you if you could go back to the map with a big map on there? That one, that's the one I wanted to do. So if I could just ask Mr. Rose, if you could go up to where all the cars are parked, and if you could go to the corner, there's like a forecast right there. The road that goes down, that's it. That road there and the road that goes the other way are highways, aren't they?
Yes.
So, Councillor Key, what you were saying was the road that was in the picture with the truck on is running up beside there. That's what you mean, Councillor Key. Is that correct? Yes. All right. I see you saying yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. So what we're talking about then is, if you mind to be road bounded and taking the roads from where it is, this all fits within an existing site of what would be an employment site per se, although they're obviously with waste and filled with the brown bits that are up to the right of it, if you mind to have it. I'm not like some other members, and seems to be a popular vote with many members of this committee. And that is, I don't actually have a problem with retrospective planning applications, and I'll explain why. Having a retrospective planning application is not breaking the law. There's actually nothing wrong with it, other than, of course, if it is retrospective, it's not being to the planning committee. If you make a retrospective planning application and then subsequently you're turned down, you will then come across enforcement and subject to the law after the planning committee has decided whether it's retrospective or not. That's a personal view of mine. It's one that I'm not necessarily sharing with everybody else and everybody else's views of what they have, but I'm just making the point that I do not follow the line that retrospective planning applications are necessarily bad. Let me give you a reason why, probably with this application, probably the pressure on this business to get on and have to deliver was probably quite immense. The planning process is a long, drawn-out affair, and it takes a long time. And sometimes the planning process is slow, it's cumbersome, and it can inhibit people, businesses, getting on and doing business. Now, that's not an excuse to say that in actual fact, that means we can roller coaster over our policies. Absolutely not. Because no matter what goes forward as a retrospective planning application, it will still be subject to this planning committee, East Devon District Council's policies that are engaged with all of that process, and could still be deemed to be unlawful. And at that point, the cost to the applicant could be severe. The reason I'm saying this is because in this particular application, looking at this site from this aerial view about where you are, and the reason I pointed out the roads that Mr. Rose pointed to, the corners, but the roads that go from round that side and that side. When I was portfolio holder for economy, it made absolutely no sense to me that we were trying to mitigate and shut down, and I felt shut down, our prevailing sites where we were creating employment. Hence, since then with COVID-19, hence since then with the mammoth tsunami of unemployment that is coming down the road, as far as I'm concerned, I see developers such as this as investors and investing in both production and people and providing jobs. And Councillor Key quite rightly pointed out the jobs that this will bring. There is a balance to be had with applications such as this, and that is if as long as what they're doing is balanced against being in the right place at the right time. I think, members, if you look at this particular site and you particularly see where that is, in the conjecture of what I would deem to be the lines would be more or less around the roads that goes from left to right of this particular site, you would say that this is encompassed within what you might call an employment site status. So it's on that basis, in trying to drive our economy, be promoting business and give businesses the confidence to invest more into their businesses in creating that employment, that I will be supporting this application, and I see absolutely no reason why I wouldn't. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Skinner. I don't think that it's appropriate for members of this committee to support unauthorised development, and that's all I'll say on that. Councillor Pook.
Thank you. I'm happy to support this application. I think what the bigger question is why did our local plan omit the area from development when it's, from my understanding, it's a reclaimed site. It's accepted by Devon as a waste site, and we've even allowed given permission ourselves. So it's questions why our local plan would eliminate it. Perhaps Mr. Rose could just comment briefly on that, but basically, yeah, I support the application. It seems obvious it should be supported.
Thank you. Councillor Key.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yeah, just to come back quickly on reference to something that Councillor Skinner said. I'm not happy with retrospective applications because a lot of people stand by the policy that they have to apply for planning permission before they actually do anything.
Yeah.
But with regard to this, you know, I'm more than happy to accept this with regard to the building that's already there and the situation of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Woodward.
Yeah, well, in this particular instance, it looks as though it's a natural fit for this building to be there, looking at the aerial photograph and the shape that it would take up. So I don't actually have an issue with that, but I do have an issue really that it's retrospective. I wouldn't want to encourage that in any way.
I quite agree with you. Right, Councillor Whitley.
Hi there. Yeah, just picking up on Councillor Pook's point. Chris, is there a reason why the two plans and what's designated to what is different? Is it just how it's come about, or?
Yeah, through you, Chair. I think it's just a matter of timing. So the local plan was produced or going through its production, and I think got adopted just before the waste local plan. So therefore,
yeah,
the waste local plan was following on. And then after both of those happened, because of the allocation, we as a local plan authority granted that consent in 18. So I think it's just a matter of timing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Thank you.
As I remember it now as well. I was on the Waste and Mineral Working Group on Devon County Council. Right, Councillor Skinner again.
Just very quickly, please, I don't want members to think that I am advocating. I am not advocating retrospective planning. It's a personal point of view of mine. The fact of the matter is, in law that is evidence-based, that until such time that a retrospective planning application, this is law, this is not what any of us may think, that until such time as a retrospective planning application has come to a committee, the point I was making was that that application is not unlawful. If the planning authority then deemed it to be refused, for argument's sake, it is then unlawful at that point, and the planning authority will take measures to ensure that it is rectified. I hold by that, I hold by policies, but it's just not one of the things that I stand to and say, I don't like retrospective planning applications, as I've heard on this committee for many, many times, That's not my position, because I hold with the evidence and the law that is in front of me, and it's about doing the right thing as far as I'm concerned. If an applicant wants to make a retrospective application, as I've said before, they will have to hold to this committee, and if it's deemed to be wrong, they've then broken the law and they will have to put it right. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I would hope that committee members already understood that there's nothing illegal about retrospective, by putting something there, as long as permission is applied for. But I'll say again, I don't think it's appropriate for members of this committee to actually encourage it. I'm not saying that you are, Councillor Skinner, but I think we need to be careful. Now then, no more speakers. I'll go to Shirley to confirm the motion and take the vote, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this is a straightforward motion, to approve with the conditions as listed in the report. If members, when your name is called, please indicate whether you are for the motion to approve, against the motion to approve, or whether you're abstaining from the vote. Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Approve.
Councillor Chamberlain.
Approve.
Councillor Coleman.
Approve.
Councillor Davey.
For.
Councillor Dasaram.
Approve with conditions listed.
Councillor Gazzard.
Approve.
Councillor Key.
Approve.
Councillor Pook.
For the motion to approve.
Councillor Pratt.
Approve.
Councillor Skinner.
Approval with conditions.
Councillor Whibley.
Approve.
Councillor Woodward.
For.
Councillor Ragg.
Approve.
Okay, that was unanimous, so that motion is carried.
Thank you. Now we go to the next application, 200393, full application, Land North Manston Avenue, Sidmouth. I don't believe there weren't any ward members, no public speakers. Is that still the case, Wendy?
Yes, that's correct. There's no
Thank
speakers.
you. Right, then, Mr. Rose, over to you.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, so this is an outline application with all matters reserved for 7 dwellings. And it's here because it's contrary to the views of the ward members, as you'll see in the report. So this is a site here off Manston Avenue. You can see the watercourse running through there. And this is their indicative layout. As I say, everything is reserved at this moment in time. So they're just seeking the principle of development. But what they've shown on here is an access coming off an existing access point, terrace of 4 dwellings, pair of semi-detached, and a bungalow at the top end of the site. And this is the site at the moment. It's a sort of small holding that's not been in use, been vacant for a couple of years. So you can see the access, the buildings that are on the site in a poor condition, and this is the road frontage. Again, the buildings there, and then we move into the site, and you can see the bungalows at the top of the site that adjoin it, and that's an adjoining terrace of properties, and you can see the watercourse. So it's in the built-up area boundary for Sidmouth. So principle of residential developments acceptable on this site. It's not in employment use, so residential will be acceptable. And as it says in the report, this is one of the few probably infill sites that are available in Sidmouth. So it's considered to conform with the principle of development is acceptable in terms of the local plan and in accordance with the neighbourhood plan. You'll see in the report that part of the site, particularly this bit here where the grass is subject to flooding in flood zones 2 and 3. But the footprint of development is proposed of the residential properties is shown outside of that flood zone. And they've also proposed in a footpath along the back of the site so that if this part of the site floods, there'll be a pedestrian access and egress for those residents outside of the flood zone. They're also proposing that when they build out the site, or if they build out the site, they'd raise the floor levels, and that's all been agreed with the Environment Agency. So that flood risk issue has been addressed. The main issue has been ensuring that you can get this scale of development on the site. So this indicative layout has been amended since the original application came in. Originally, there were 2 dwellings up here, and we were concerned about overlooking of these adjoining properties or potential for that. So they changed that plot to potentially show how it could be a bungalow on the site. This pair of semi-detached is turned so it doesn't overlook or immediately face the rear of those gardens. And again, at reserve matter stage, we could condition where windows go. And this terrace has been amended slightly, so it's brought forward. So we now have between 20 and 22 meters distance between the back of this terrace and that property. So I think, and there's adequate garden space and parking areas. So I think as officers, we feel that the applicants demonstrated how they could get a layout to work on here with the 7 dwellings that are proposed as part of the application. And as I say, that can be considered in more detail at reserve matters stage. The ward members of and the town council feel that the site would be better used for 4 bungalows, but that and whilst the applicant could come forward with 4 bungalows, I don't think there's a reason to resist 7, as the 7 dwellings, as they've demonstrated how that could be provided on the site. And I think you can judge for yourself whether you think that's overdevelopment of the site given the character there. But at 35 dwellings per hectare, that's still fairly low. So the proposal is acceptable in principle. They've addressed issues of the flood zone. The indicative layout shows how they could get 7 dwellings on there. And we can deal with the details of windows and design and relationships at the reserve matters stage. And as I say, it's one of the few infill sites that's available in Sidmouth. So due to those reasons, it's recommended for approval with conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Councillor Key.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, I mean, I had a good read and a good look at this site in actual fact. And I mean, when you actually look at what is there, I mean, it's absolutely horrendous. What a mess there. I mean, the space that is actually there is more than adequate to cope with the 7 dwellings that are proposed there. And so I have no hesitation in actual fact in putting forward the recommendation of approval.
Thank you. Is there a seconder?
I'll second it.
Who's that?
It's Tony Woodward.
Yes, Tony. Sorry, I can't see you on the screen. Okay, so it's been proposed and seconded. Councillor De Sarum.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I think it's very positive report. Clearly, we are within the built-up area boundary of Sidmouth, as it says. But my main concern is, as you know, last week we spent a lot of time discussing an Exmouth application with regard to flood risk assessment. I know that the report indicates that the flood risk assessment has been resolved by raising it 300 millimetres above the existing ground levels, but I still think that we should be cautious when we actually go to build sites within these flood zones because of the increased risk of flooding. I'm not against the application. What I am against is the risk with the fact that there is a problem, which we will have solved. So yes, I would go with what people are saying, but I do note the concerns about flooding. But I also realise they have been resolved. So thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Skinner.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I really can't see where I try to read the parts about the ward members and the parish council, sorry, town council consider that, well, in fact, they've put 8 dwellings when actually it's 7. Consider it's overdevelopment as Mr. Councillor Rose. Go ahead, you can get. Well, I think it's a demotion actually, Chris. But Mr. Rose, in the way he's put over his view that it's not. When you look at the scale of infill development that's within a development boundary, I think we're quite lucky that we've got something that's really going to fit within this site. And I much appreciate the officers that have obviously worked with this in something that's relatively low key, because if somebody else, another developer had got over this who wanted to make as much money out of it as they could, I think they could have really ramped up the numbers. And I struggled to see how we would even have defended that. So I'm going to support this application. I think it's quite modest in the way that it's been put forward and represented, and I think it's going to be of a benefit to this particular area. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Pook.
Thank you. Again, I'll support it. I think the actual density is very modest. Those 7 houses fit very easily on the site, from my experience. And if I was being at all provocative, I'd sort of say, well, with 7 houses, and in a town, there's no requirement for affordable. Had they put 10 houses in there, we could have got maybe 50% affordable in there. But anyway, the application is quite legitimate in its going in at 7. It's certainly not overcrowding, and I'll be supporting it.
Thank you. Councillor Pratt.
Yes, the site plan which is now shown is an amended plan, and it's a much better improvement to the site completely. In particular, the 4 terrace houses have been moved forward from the boundary with the properties in Manstone Avenue, and I'm happy with the layout, and I will support this.
Thank you. And Councillor Whibley.
Oh yeah, just looking at the comments from the ward members, I think some of them are quite important to note about, you know, people do need space, and people do, especially in the to quote Councillor Wrexham, in the post-COVID, it's been important to recognise that space, particularly outdoor space, has become an important consideration in terms of people's mental health. But I really can't see, looking at the plans, as to how this is really impacting upon that. I think it's, I think there's more than adequate space. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a proposer and seconder. Shirley, can you confirm, please?
Yes, Chair. Yes, this application, the outline application, has 2 elements to the approval. It is to adopt the appropriate assessment that forms part of the report, and also to approve with the conditions as listed in the report. Members, when your name is called, please would you indicate whether you are for the motion to approve, against the motion to approve, or whether you're abstaining from the vote.
Councillor Brown.
Approve.
Councillor Chamberlain.
For the motion to approve.
Councillor Coleman.
Approve.
Councillor Davey.
For.
Councillor De Sarum.
For the motion to approve.
Councillor Gazzard.
For.
Councillor Key.
Approve both.
Councillor Pook.
For the motion to approve.
Councillor Pratt.
For.
Councillor Skinner.
For the motion.
Councillor Whibley.
I am for the motion to approve.
Councillor Woodward.
For approval.
Councillor Ragg.
Approve.
So that was unanimous. That motion is carried.
Thank you. And that was the last item on the agenda. So that brings our meeting to an end. I'd like to thank everyone, including members of the public watching online, for taking part. Can I just remind everybody present that the supporting officer will confirm when the meeting is no longer being recorded or going live. Until then, your comments will be live to the public. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.